Log haulage truck drivers are a vital part of the forest industry. They move the logs that pay everyone's wages while presenting the public face of the industry. The forestry industry takes its responsibilities for public safety and the environment very seriously. The main focus is to save lives and to reduce injury and losses. In their daily work, drivers can communicate the following key messages. All road users should feel safe when travelling near log haulage trucks. Drivers are being careful not to endanger the public or to damage roads or other infrastructure. The forestry industry recognise that being a log haulage driver is often difficult and challenging. Roads are typically steep, tight and twisty, and not always conducive to the size or scale of modern log trucks. Daily challenges include delays while loading, driving or unloading, compliance with mass, dimension and loading requirements, restraining awkward logs or debris falling off trailers, weather conditions, rain, ice, wind, fog and dust make different road surfaces react in diverse ways, constant changes of the power and size of trucks, unexpected events that require quick reaction time caused by other road vehicles, obstacles on roads or damaged roads, vehicle rollover and loss of traction.
Drivers are part of a team in the forest industry supply chain. There's been many years of collective learning captured in company procedures to protect you, your colleagues and the general public. Safety is everybody's collective responsibility, but drivers need to feel like they're not on their own. They have people that support them and can support others. As a driver, reporting hazards and putting forward suggestions for safety improvements is an important way that we can help others in the company and other parties in the supply chain to improve the safety for everybody involved in the transport task. Fatigue is also a really important thing to manage when you're driving. There's going to be laws around fatigue management, and there's also going to be rules within your individual companies around policies and procedures for fatigue management too. So you need to make sure that you understand all areas of fatigue management for your specific role. Irrespective of that though, don't just work according to the rules. If you do feel tired, you can stop for a break. It's important to ensure that you are familiar with the truck that you drive. It's also important to understand that if you're changing trucks shift to shift and you're in a new truck for the day, or your truck's getting maintenance done and you're in an unfamiliar vehicle, that you familiarise yourself with that truck. It might have different handling characteristics, a different swept path, different turning circles, and it may behave completely differently on the road. So just take it easy if you do have to swap trucks. It's also important that you follow your company procedures around walk-around inspections and pre-starts or pre-trip inspections. It might be called different things where you work, but every day the truck needs a good look over and you need to be familiar with what you're about to jump into before you start work. Inside the cabin, you want to make sure that you set up the cabin space in an ergonomic way. Make sure your seat's adjusted right, that you've got good visibility out the cabin, that your mirrors are in the right spot so that you can see what's going on behind you as well. You also need to make sure that you secure any loose items that are inside the cabin, such as your lunch, your water bottle, first aid kits, things like that that might move around during the day. You also need to ensure that you're minimising things in the cab that can distract you. Pack your mobile phone away or switch it to silent while you're driving the truck. Drivers should already know the standard rules and traffic controls for the areas that they're working. And in the context of driving on forestry roads, you might be on a private forest owner's property, which will have its own unique set of rules, and you need to be aware of those. There's going to be traffic management systems in place, there's going to be protocols around UHF communication, or there might be route markers, signposts, mile markers and fence posts along the way that you can call out as marker points to communicate with other drivers along the route. It's also important that you don't just drive by the radio, and that you don't just assume that every truck or every vehicle that's sharing the network with you is going to be listening to the same channel that you're on. There may be a member of the public that has snuck into the area, or bush crew vehicles en route that you're not aware of, and they might not be communicating with the same marker points as you are. So keep an eye out, because people can appear out of nowhere and you don't want to assume that the road is all yours. It's also important that as a driver that you communicate hazards along the route with the other drivers as you're sharing the road with them during the day. You might notice a patch of the road is softening up, that the edges are getting a bit nasty, or that there's a difficult climb along route. So just talk those things through with the other guys on the job with you and communicate them through to your supervisor and the company managers if necessary as well, so that attention can be put into areas of the road that need some help.
So Dwayne, when a driver's assessing the static rollover threshold of his truck and a load, what are some of the key things he's looking for?
Static rollover threshold's an interesting thing. So it basically starts from the bed height of the load. So the lower we can get the bed height of the bolster, the better the static rollover threshold calculations will be. And theoretically, that'll result in a more stable load. So factors that can influence that is wheel and tyre size. So 22.5 inch wheels versus 19.5s. The design of the chassis of the trailer, whether it's a straight deck or a drop deck, and then the bolster heights themselves. Some trucks have got quite a high bolster to allow fork clearance for loaders and things like that. So the more we can get the floor of the logs down, the higher the stability of the load will be. The other thing we've got to deal with is load height. So the higher the load, then the more unstable the truck is. In this particular application, we've got wood that's been sitting on the side of the road for months and months, so it's very dry, it's got a very low specific density. Often these trucks are carting below their legal weight limit, but they're cubed out, but the load is quite high, and then that results in a bit of a sort of a more unstable load. So the drivers are very aware of that, the difference between carting green wet wood fresh off the harvester versus wood that's been stockpiled, sometimes for up to 12 months at a time.
So that load check the driver does to really understand their stability before they leave the coop is really vitally important.
Yeah, it is important. I suppose the first thing you're doing as you're putting the load on and doing your straps is having a walk around and looking at it. The driver's visually checking what's going on. In the mind straight away, you know this is a pretty high load. And then as you're limping out the coop towards the main arterial roads, the drivers get a pretty good feel for what's happening with the truck, and they'll pick up load to load any behaviour changes in the way the trailer is influencing the prime mover. And so, you know, if you feel things are a little bit different with the next one because the load height's creeped up a little bit, it's time to just back it off a bit and just monitor things as you're going along the route.
Vehicle suitability and access to various routes is often dependent on low-speed swept path. Low-speed swept path is the technical term given to the amount a trailer cuts in closer to the apex of the corner than the prime mover does. The larger the swept path, the more road space a truck needs to negotiate the corner. Swept path is ultimately determined by length and the spacing of components of the vehicle between the pivot or articulation points. To demonstrate this, we engaged well-known industry expert Peter Harbridge to create a low-speed swept path demonstration. We were assisted by 4 highly skilled drivers in combinations that we use in our typical daily operations. Peter set up and marked out a full-size Level 1 PBS template, which is typically what a standard 19-metre 6-axle semi-trailer combination is required to be capable of negotiating, and we put them through their paces.
Hey, my name's Brian from A&C Forestry. Today I'm driving a 7-axle twin-steer semi Kenworth with a Kennedy tri-axle trailer on the back. Today I'm about 7.5 metres long, can operate up to 19 metres.
Morning, my name's Mark Howard. I work for Leeson's Logging in Rosedale. This morning we're driving a Kenworth prime mover with a 9-axle B-double configuration, 2 Kennedy trailers on it, and it's a 25.4 metre overall length with a maximum of 26.
Yeah, g'day. My name's Justin. I'm driving a Max Superliner today with the Kennedy trailer and stag setup that's just under 23 metres.
Hi, my name's Andrew Abernethy. I drive for MJM. I'm driving an 8-axle B-double bogey tri combination. It's a Volvo prime mover with Kennedy trailers. It's 23.5 metres by construction, and I can operate up to 26 metres long.
This demonstration clearly shows the different tracking abilities and low-speed swept paths of each of these combinations.
On narrow, windy roads, these differences will have a profound impact on how a driver must negotiate each corner. They must also understand that by simply changing a prime mover or a trailer can impact the drivability of the vehicle.
This prime mover here is fitted with central tyre inflation, or we call it CTI for short. Tyre inflation is a wonderful thing for a transport operator to invest in their business. It leads to some improvements in tyre life, but the main benefit of central tyre inflation is traction improvement in difficult terrain. So as you can see with this truck, the tyre pressures are down a little bit and the footprint of the tyre on the road has extended a bit. So we've got more surface area of tyre on the gravel, and that'll allow an improvement in traction when the vehicle's coming out of the forest roads. You've got to remember to put the tyre pressures back up when you're on sealed surfaces so you don't cook the tyre and lead to early failures or blowouts and things like that. But it's a wonderful thing to add to your vehicles for the drivers because it makes their task a lot easier as well.